Welcome to the show, after the show, it happens right after the show. Cheers. Man, oh mayonnaise. So this is one of those questions where it was sort of like, who is Aladdin's mom?
Yeah, right? Like, oh yeah, I never really thought about it.
I know. Well, and this happens like all the time whenever like one of these reboots happens, where all of a sudden you kind of like go back and revisit movies that we probably don't watch like on our regular slate in the same way that we do a lot of the other stuff that we cover.
Yeah, not constantly watching Aladdin like I am rereading Harry Potter.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So it's funny every time you go back and revisit it, and all of a sudden like what seems like a potentially obvious question floats to the surface. With this one, there isn't like a super satisfying like, oh, there it is kind of answer, but I do think it's fascinating, and I remember when we saw it on Broadway last year, this whole element of like the proud of your boy or whatever, I was like, what is this?
Yeah, I did not think it worked very well. Like, it just sort of comes up out of nowhere, and it just felt like, oh, they wanted to add in something extra so that the performer had another song or something.
Sure.
But it was just like, you know, Aladdin is not like a super serious movie or anything. It's,
right.
You know, there's magic, and there's the genie, and there's princesses and flying carpets, and it's a lot of fun, and all of a sudden it would just take these turns, and it'd be like, proud of your boy, and you're like, what? Who? What? That's what... I don't know. And then, yeah, like we kind of talked about it in the video, it's just, if it's not, you know, it's not like it's a bad thing to want to, like, live up to your parents' expectations of being a good person or anything, but it makes him, like, a little less naturally special that he's not just some homeless person who totally still understands the difference between right and wrong in a way that the normal citizens of Agrabah don't.
Right. And I think that's the bad or the weird thing about it. And even I feel like in the Broadway show, it feels just entirely unprompted.
Yeah.
Too. You know, it's just sort of like when it happens, you are kind of like caught off guard because there's no setup to this idea that like he was taken as a small child or his parents died or like, you know, there's nothing that calls back to that tone. So I agree. I feel like almost the idea that Aladdin has somehow become like this well-equipped human being without having any of the normal instruction that you would expect. It kind of speaks more volumes to his just air of generosity. So, I don't know. It's interesting. And I think sort of delving even into Jasmine's mom was also kind of interesting because the Sultan does seem like such a, I don't even know, like, they're in stark contrast to one another. Like, Jasmine's like a super strong-willed individual, and her father, for better or worse, has just basically got like a gigantic heart of gold, which makes him
he's like very silly, like immature and gullible, but like good-hearted. Right.
Like he's definitely like well-intended, I think.
Yeah.
All things considered, other than, you know, not letting his daughter ever leave the castle.
Yeah. Which is like weird. The whole her mom thing seems like it could be a good way to justify the whole I've never left the palace, because it's like, if you're the monarch, how could you have never left the palace? Like, you need to have seen something of what you're ruling over.
Right. Well, and it's funny because, you know, we just talked about The Incredibles on Tuesday of this week, and they talk about how, like, cell phones are such a problem for stories because it sort of, like, solves a lot of them. It's like, let me call and tell them what's up. And it's like, well, now they know, and that makes it uninteresting.
Right.
I feel like, because Frozen does the same thing, where you've got, like, Anna and Elsa who have never really been exposed to the outside world, like, it allows them to have a little bit of, like, ignorance with the world itself.
Right.
Like,
that's true.
There's a certain purity, like, they haven't been jaded by anything. So I don't know if that's, like, a similar token there.
I think it probably is. Like, she's, I don't know, maybe it's, like, why she's a little gullible, too. Or I don't know why she, I don't know. I don't know where they're going with that.
Yeah.
Yep. But I can see it's much more justifiable if, like, something tragic happened to her. Like, if she remembers her mom being, like, a really strong-willed person, And then she leaves the palace and she dies, and her dad being like, having like the Finding Nemo of like, no, be safe, don't die, you can't, I can't lose you too,
right,
sort of thing. That makes sense. And now I kind of want this to be the thing that happens.
I know. And it's always, that's the other thing too, is that like Beauty and the Beast, absolutely, like in the first 30 seconds of the live action, you could tell they were like, all those plot holes, we fixed them.
Yeah. To some extent, it's like, yes, I appreciate that you don't have plot holes, but sometimes it's like, did you adjust this? Does the adjustment add to the story, or does it just fix the plot hole from the original?
Sure.
So I think that's the line you have to be careful about crossing, is like, if you're just fixing it for the sake of the people who've already seen the animated classic, like if you've never seen the animated and you just saw this one, would the plot hole fix feel natural to the story, or would it be like, well, that was a thing that happened? Because like when you see Beauty and the Beast, I think when they do the little time travel book thing, it's like, well, I don't know if we needed to do this.
Yeah, no, I don't know what that really offered or added at all. I think that was supposed to help you get more on the same wavelength as the Beast, or like a way to
like let him do something nice for her.
Well, let him do something nice for her, but also for him to get like a better scope of who she is and why she is who she is.
Right.
And like, I think what they're trying to do is help explain how in a relatively short manner of time they went from basically her being his prisoner to being in love with one another.
Yeah.
But like, I think with Beauty and the Beast, they did a fantastic job of like, Beast completely lets her go, like, and he doesn't expect her to return.
Right.
And I think that that's a much better story than what happens in the animated, like.
Yeah.
Because it's not like the same like Stockholm syndrome thing. It's like he lets her go and he doesn't expect her to return. And that's
right. Like he dooms himself.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Essentially.
Yeah.
All the people in his castle.
Anyway, this movie is interesting because I thought, like, when I heard that it was coming out, and I don't know that it's just been overshadowed by like Captain Marvel and Endgame and Game of Thrones and so many other like massive like things that have been ending.
Yeah.
I haven't been as excited about it, but like even waking up this morning, I was like, I see Aladdin.
I know. I was all like, we're seeing Aladdin today. Yeah. We're also going to like Disney World tomorrow.
I know.
Like we're gonna be right in it.
Right back full fledged. Yeah. So as many Marvel movies as we've been making, I could totally see a resurgence of Disney movies for a while.
Yeah, totally. Probably some get ready for some Disney World movies, y'all.
Anyway, guys, thanks so much for your support on Patreon. We will see you next time. Bye.